Alright, hey everyone, welcome to my brief tutorial here. In the next 15 minutes, we're going to cover the basics of combat in the first edition of the Star Wars role-playing game, published by West End Games in the 80s. It's a really simple and fun system, and what I like about it most, I think, is that the combat, once you get used to it, can be extremely fast and fluid and really drive the story forward. There are some differences between Star Wars D6 and other games that it may behoove you to familiarize yourself with. The best way to learn is by example, so we'll just go ahead and jump into it. So let me adjust my volume here. So consider the following scenario. Our protagonists have just exited the temple on Jeddah, accompanied by an NPC who has revealed herself to be a fugitive Jedi. Unfortunately, they're greeted by an Inquisitor tasked with hunting down that Jedi and the Inquisitor's retinue of bad guys. Well, what would happen next? In many systems, you'd go ahead and roll for initiative. This really is not the case in the first edition of D6 Star Wars. Instead, it plays out more like a movie. What I do is I simply ask my players, what are you doing here? In this case, after some dramatic talk and that sort of thing, the Inquisitor and Jedi both ignite their lightsabers and they start to duel. This sets the backdrop up for the rest of the combat. We'll come back to them later, but for now, I typically go down the line and ask the players narratively to describe what they'd like to do. Starting with Nikki Flynn, here on the left, she'd say, for example, I'd want to find some sort of cover and fire at this bounty hunter, which is here. So great. So that's what the movie looks like. Nikki takes a 5-meter move and fires upon the bounty hunter. But the bounty hunter isn't so inert. So she would move here. As the battle breaks out, the bounty hunter also sneers and backpedals, taking cover behind a column and pointing her rifle at Nikki. Both parties fire as a firefight breaks out. So she would take about a 5-meter move. We want to say about to here. Take cover behind the column and start to fire at Nikki. Now, this is our first bit of crunch we need to talk about. First, the target number of a ranged attack depends on several factors. Most importantly is the range itself. Target number is 5 for point blank range, 10 for short, 15 for medium, and 20 for long range, and all of those depend upon the weapon. Second, this modifier is changed according to your cover. In this instance, we'll say that the bounty hunter dropped behind the column. That's decent cover. So we'll modify the TN to hit the bounty hunter to 5. So bring it to 15. 10 plus 5, short range. Then we'll say the shrubbery here. Now that's only partial cover. So we're going to say it adds a +2 bonus, bringing the target number to hit Nikki to 12. Next, we'll go ahead and roll both attacks simultaneously. And this is the attack roll itself that determines who gets to go first. So let's see how this plays out. Okay, so we're first going to roll the attack for Nikki Flynn. And we're going to roll the attack for the bounty hunter. And we can see down here, we can compare the two results. Now, remember, the TN to hit the bounty hunter was 15. The TN to hit Nikki Flynn was only 12. So, Nikki, unfortunately, missed, while the bounty hunter hit. Furthermore, if they both would have hit, it is the bounty hunter that would have been able to go first, because she rolled the highest on her skill check. So, Nikki misses, the bounty hunter hits, and her blaster would cause a damage of 19. Now, in D6 Star Wars, first edition, when you are hit by another player, you make a strength roll modified by your armor to determine the level of damage that's done to your character. In this instance, the bounty hunter's weapon damage is 19. We've created a macro simply called protection, and we'll go ahead and roll that for Nikki right now to see how badly she's wounded. Nikki rolled a 15 on her protection check. 15 is less than 19, and so Nikki is wounded. This means that any further checks she performs until she is treated medically will suffer a 1d6 penalty. So Nikki takes a nasty hit as she strays into the shrubs, and the bounty hunter posts up on this column. So next up is Karis. Karis says, I want to follow Nikki into cover and fire at this death trooper as I do so. So he would say, for example, he's going to fire at this one. Okay. The GM then narrates the scene. Great, I would say. The trooper is trying not to get hit. He, at the same time, wants to deftly circle to his left and fall back to complete cover behind this wall here. Does anyone else want to attack this death trooper as he does this? And then Lance speaks up. Yeah, he would say, I actually want to step to my right and take 2 shots at him. Now, this is a situation when we not only roll our attacks to determine initiative in turn order, we also have to take into account dodge actions and multiple actions. Realize this, during each turn you get 1 action and a 5-meter move without penalty. Each action therefore incurs a 1d penalty. For example, if your normal blaster skill is 6d and you fire twice, you would fire with 5d both times instead of 6d. If you move greater than 5 meters, that counts as an action too. So if you want to move, for example, 10 meters, then fire, you would take a 1d penalty on that attack. In our example, you'd use 5d for your attack instead of 6d. Finally, a dodge action also counts. So a dodge plus attack incurs a 1d penalty on both the dodge roll and the attack roll. Before we continue, let me define dodge. A dodge action can further modify the target number to hit you. By taking a dodge action, you add the result to your dodge roll. Well, you add the result of your dodge roll to your target number to hit. So for example, if you're at short range, which would be a target number 10 to hit, but you dodge and roll a 12, that means that the target number to hit you would then be 22. Let's see how this plays out. So again, what we do is we make all of our rolls simultaneously, and we let our attacks determine our initiative order. Karis here is going to strafe to his right and fire at the Death Trooper. No penalties on his roll. He rolled a 17. the Death Trooper is going to dodge, and he's going to move. Let's see how... To get to behind this wall, it's going to be well over 5 meters. So if he wants to dodge and move at the same time, he's going to have to take a negative 1d penalty to his checks. Let's go ahead and roll this Death Trooper's dodge to determine what his target number is going to be. I'm going to add the negative 1d6 penalty here. 6. That's not very good. So the target number to hit him is going to be 10 plus 6, which is 16, as he strafes around this wall. Finally, Lance is going to take a 5-meter move this way and shoot twice at the Death Trooper. So we're going to roll 2 attacks, each at a 1d penalty. Alright, so let's look at our numbers. First, we see that Karis Novar rolled a 17 on his attack, and the target number for that Death Trooper, as we said before, is only 16. So that's a hit. The damage rating on his, or the damage roll on his rifle is 10. So we're going to go ahead and make a protection check for this Death Trooper here. $20. He made the protection check. So he's not wounded. Instead, he's stunned. He's not going to be able to act the next round. We'll also go ahead and look at Lance's attacks. Lance's first attack was 14. That does not beat 16, and that's a miss. His second attack was a 15, which again was a miss. So the Death Trooper takes cover, total cover, behind this wall. So unfortunately, the second Death Trooper, well, he isn't so cowardly. He elects to go ahead and simply aim and fire at Karis, who is hiding behind this brush. Remember, target number to hit him is only going to be 12. Well, he does beat the 12, and the damage roll for his blaster rifle is 19. So Karis is going to go ahead and roll his strength modified by armor, also known as protection according to our macro here. Ooh, and that is a 9. This gives us an opportunity to discuss the different levels of wounds and health in this game. If a character's protection roll is simply a little bit under the damage caused, well, he'll be wounded. If it's 2 times divisible by the damage roll, then the character is incapacitated. If it's 3 times divisible, then that character is mortally wounded and incapacitated. In this instance, 2 times 9 is 18, which is less than 19. So unfortunately, Karis, well, he's incapacitated, but he's just not quite dead yet. Alright, so finally, we're going to ask Vinlow and Sevin here what they're up to. They both wield their vibroblades and want to charge into the fray and close distance, but make sure they don't take fire on the way in. They want to both dodge and move. since the movement's over 5 meters, it counts as an action. That means their dodge roll will be made at a penalty. So they wield their weapons and they run towards the stormtrooper. He aims his weapon and fires as they charge him. So Venlo charges. Sevin charges. Because it's over 5 meter move, their dodge roll is going to have to be modified by a -1d. That's still pretty good. And we're going to also say that the stormtrooper starts to fire at them when they are short range, not point blank. So the target number to hit Venlo is going to be 10 plus 12, which is 22. We're going to make Sevin's dodge roll here with a 1d penalty. And she didn't roll as well. Her target number to hit is going to be 17. Now, something I often do in my games is try to decide which of these two player characters the NPC is going to attack. I'm just going to roll a d2 to figure this out. 2. So, Sevin is going to get the short shaft. Let's see if this stormtrooper can hit a target number of 17. Being a stormtrooper, he did not. Big fat miss. So now we're on to the next round. We'll start the next round this time, narratively, with Venlo and Sevin. Both of them have charged this poor stormtrooper. Venlo would say, I think Sevin can handle this. I want to engage the death trooper here. So the scene is one with Sevin attacking this trooper while he tries to backpedal and fire, and the death trooper, as Venlo charges him, does the same thing. But then Venlo might say, on the second thought, I think I want to use a force point for this attack. If that death trooper goes free, he'll take down one of my buddies. Very well. D6 Star Wars, using a force point lets you double all of your skill codes for the entire round. This means that skill codes are increased, not damage code for the blaster. In this case, though, since Vibroblade is based on strength, he would double that too. Let's see how this plays out, and let's do the math. So we'll take this in chunks. First of all, we'll do the little confrontation between Venlo and the Death Trooper. Then we'll do the confrontation between Sevin and the Stormtrooper. Venlo would be able to take a free move to close with the Death Trooper and attack with his Vibroblade. He's going to roll his melee, and since he spent a forced point, he's going to roll it twice and use that number for his attack. No penalty. 17 and 9. So his total attack would be 17 plus 9, which would be 25. I'm also going to say that narratively this Death Trooper is backpedaling as Venlo approaches. He's at close quarters combat with a blaster rifle. So narratively I'm also going to say that he's at a disadvantage. For him, I'm going to roll his attack at a 1d penalty. And we can see by comparison, 12 versus a 25 means Venlo is going to go first. The target number to hit for a melee weapon is not determined by range, obviously. Let's go ahead and go to my cheat sheets to figure out what the target number to hit for a Vibroblade is. Vibroblade, difficulty is 15. He rolled a 25, so it's definitely a hit. Now, let's see what old Venlo's damage is going to be on this thing. So again, we're going to look at damage. For his weapon, it's going to be strength plus 1d plus 2. But because he spent a force point this round, that strength code is going to be doubled. Let's go ahead and roll it manually off of his. Actually, we can do strength times 2. So we'll roll it once there. 11. 12, that's 23. Then a 1d6 plus 1. 2. So 23 plus 2 is 25. Go ahead and roll that Death Trooper's protection against the 25. And he rolls a 10. 10. 2 times 10 is 20. 3 times 10 is 30. So this Stormtrooper is incapacitated. So Vinlow charges forward, shoves this Death Trooper, and makes quick work of him with his vibroblade. Sevin does a similar thing and charges the Stormtrooper. Stormtrooper is going to attack her. The 1d penalty. 7 versus a. She spends a force point as well, so she's going to roll her melee twice. 6. 6, 12. 12 beats a 7, so she does go first. Now we're going to roll the damage for Sevin in the same way. We're going to roll her strength twice. Which is a 14. We'll add to that 1d6 plus 1. It's going to be 7. That's a 21 overall. Stormtrooper will roll protection against a 21. Oh! Unfortunately, he is only stunned because his protection roll beat 21. However, he's not going to be able to go next round. Alright, so now for the sake of expedience and highlighting another feature of D6 First Edition combat, let's pan the camera over to Nikki over here. She is in a struggle for her life in this firefight with this bounty hunter here. Possibly this Death Trooper here, but again, he's not going to be able to act this round. So Nikki knows that this shrub is not going to provide much cover, and certainly not for long, so she says, let's see how those troopers like a grenade in the face. She unclips a frag grenade from her belt, and then Lance, who's next to her, says, I like the way you think. So he does the same thing. Both of them are going to use a force point, doubling their skill codes for the round. Come to think of it, they both say, in unison, we're going to dodge 2. It will decrease their grenade skill and dodge code by 1 dice, but they figure they can handle it since everything will be doubled anyway. The trooper opens fire as Nikki and Karis both let their grenades fly. So we'll go ahead and roll the attack for the bad guy first. She's either going to attack Nikki or Lance. I'd say she'd go after Lance since he's in the open. Target number to hit him is going to be 10, modified by his dodge. So let's roll dodge twice since he's spending a force point. That's absolutely fantastic. He rolled a 20. And then he rolled a 16. So target number to hit him is going to be 36. Let's go ahead and have the bounty hunter attack. And that is a miss. Okay. Now we're going to have both Lance and Nikki roll their grenade throws. Whoever is highest gets to go first. And also remember that we're going to roll twice because they're spending their force point. So, here we go, Nikki. So 10 plus 7 would be a 17. Lance. Lance total would be 8. So let's say Nikki rolls a 17. Well, what's the target number for a grenade? Let's see, she wants to throw this grenade right there. Right there. So it's going to be we'll call it a 20-meter throw. Let me go ahead and put my icon out here, right there. So we can see that to throw a grenade at 20 meters exactly is a medium check. So Nikki had to beat a 15. Since Nikki rolled a 17 on her grenade attack, it hits, and it hits exactly where she wants it to. Now, so a little bit more about grenades. They're fairly complex, but still quick when you get the hang of it. And they're really fun because they add this whole element of unpredictability into your combat. They're especially fun if the player misses. So first of all, if a grenade hits, it's going to do damage to anything within a 10-meter radius. You can see this from the aura I've set up. Here, I've set this token up with a 10-meter aura so we can visualize what this looks like. Anything less than 3 meters suffers 5d damage. Less than 4 suffers 4d damage, up to 6 meters, 3d damage, and anything like between 6 and 10 meters suffers 2d damage. If you're outside of the radius, you, of course, suffer no damage. If the target of the grenade has dodged, which they did not in this instance, then the roll from the grenade needs to beat the base target number plus the target's dodge roll, or the target is considered to have hit the deck and taken no damage from the grenade. Let's pretend that this grenade missed. In that case, the grenade will still go off, just not where you want it to. To calculate grenade deviation, first roll a d6. That's going to tell you the direction of deviation. Then you're going to roll a 3d6. That's going to tell you the distance of deviation. Let's see how that could go wrong. Remember, grenades don't discriminate. They harm PCs and PCs alike. So first of all, we're going to look at the damage this grenade would have caused if it hit its mark, which in actuality it did. I did some measurements, and both the bounty hunter and the death trooper are within 3 millimeters of the grenade hit, so both of them will take 5d damage. Let's go ahead and make those rolls. 5d, 5d6. So the bounty hunter has to roll her protection against 20, which she makes. She makes the roll, so she is blown back and stunned, but not wounded. This means she won't be able to react this round at all, or the next round. The Death Trooper actually, it's a 20. And he succeeds as well, but he is already stunned. So we're going to say that he's knocked unconscious. Flung forward. Now let's see how this would have changed if she would have missed her grenade check. So I'm going to roll a 1d6 to determine the direction of grenade deviation. 1. So according to the grenade chart, it's going to deviate directly at 12 o'clock. Now let's see how many meters it will deviate. 3d6. So it's going to deviate 9 meters. So if Nikki would have missed this attack, this grenade would have deviated 9 meters straight forward. 9 meters north. You can see how that affects things. The attack would have hit Finn low. It would have attacked the 2 NPCs that were locked in a duel. It would have affected Lance. So grenades should be used with some discretion. We'll go ahead and close out this tutorial with 3 more topics: lightsabers, the Force, and healing. First, we'll talk about laser swords. Let's forget about the blaster combat happening. Pretend the camera zooms in on the Inquisitor and the fugitive Jedi, Aura Zin. Narratively, they're locked in a life and death duel as the Inquisitor's crimson blade crashes against the Jedi's green weapon. "You will never escape with your life, Aura Zin," says the Inquisitor. "You and your friends will die here." Aura narratively parries a blow and retorts, "I may die here, yes, but they will live on, and so will the rebellion. There is no stemming the tide or the will of the Force." She turns to her companions. "Flee! Leave this place." Aura Zin and the Inquisitor both attack. They're both going to use Force points as well, and are going to use melee parry, or lightsaber parry in this instance. As we know, that counts as 2 actions, attack plus parry, and so they'll each get a 1d penalty to their rolls. The base target number for a lightsaber to hit is 15. Actually, take that back, it's 20. For lightsaber to hit is 20. So it's going to be 15 plus whatever the parry rolls for these combatants are. Now, a few points about using lightsabers. First, the players may choose to use their sense power instead of melee parry to parry in lightsaber combat. The sense power can also be used to deflect blaster bolts, but we won't get into that today. Finally, lightsabers not only do 5d damage, but the wielder's control power is added to the damage as well. If you're on the receiving end of a skilled lightsaber wielder, it is not good. Let's see how this plays out. Okay, so remember that we're going to double all the skill rolls for this instance because both Aura Zin and the Inquisitor are using a Force point. So we're going to use melee attack at a 1d penalty because both of them are also trying to parry. The second one is not at a penalty because we add it to the first. So Aura's attack is 26. Let's see what her parry would be. Dexterity-based skill. So her parry is going to be, ooh, that would be a 32. 32 plus 20 would be 52. Let's go ahead and roll the Inquisitor's attack and the Inquisitor's parry. So the attack is going to be 19 plus 19, which is 38. Target number to hit the Inquisitor is going to be 20 plus his parry roll times 2. Actually, let's see if the Inquisitors. So his sense is 7d plus 2. Melee parry is 8d plus 1. So we're going to use this. Let's roll this. We'll roll this twice. The first one's going to be at a penalty, remember? Ooh, so 50, 61. So we can see that as this lightsaber dual wield wears on, that neither one strikes a blow. And it's going to be very likely that the first person to make a successful attack will incapacitate their enemy. Let's go on to round 2. At this point, we're going to say that there are no force points to be spent. So Arazen's attack is going to be 18. For parry, simply be 12. So in order to hit her, target number is going to be 22. The Inquisitor's attack is going to be 31. His parry would have been 22. So to hit him, she would have to roll a 42, which she did not. But unfortunately, he did make his way past Arazen's defenses. So really, this is where the fun begins. And we also know that lightsabers add the lightsaber wielder's control dice onto any damage the lightsaber does at baseline, which is 5d. We're going to go ahead and roll off the Inquisitor sheet here. We're going to roll his control skill. Remember, that's at a -1 penalty, since he took 2 actions this round. Then we're going to roll the damage of the weapon itself, which is 5d. So the damage that Arazen has to roll her protection against would be 31 plus 25, which is 56. This is going to be tough for Aura. Let's see what happens. All right, Jedi, let's see what you have going for you. That is not good. She rolled a protection of 8 against a damage of 56. Arazen is pretty much killed outright. She's impaled on the Inquisitor's lightsaber. At this point, we would just say we're starting a new round, and we're going to ask all the PCs what they're going to do. The answer is unanimous. The answer is run. But who goes first? Well, if we're talking about movement, the person who rolls the highest in dexterity goes first. But the Inquisitor isn't going to move. He's simply going to extend his left hand into a fist, and then Lance feels his throat begin to tighten. Uh-oh. Everybody spends another force point. including the Inquisitor, is going to attempt to use his injure/kill power. This uses the alter power skill and is versus a perception roll of his target. First, though, let's see who goes first. We're going to roll dexterity for all the players wanting to escape and to alter for the Inquisitor. Let's go ahead and roll alter for the Inquisitor first. He's spending a force point, so we're going to roll it twice. 32 plus 25 is 57. Next, we're going to roll Nikki. Roll her dexterity. We're going to roll it twice. Ooh, 12. Not too great. And then finally, we're going to roll Lance's dexterity twice. 16. Again, against a 57. Not too great. So, narratively speaking, Nikki, Flynn, and Lance try to run, but the Inquisitor turns towards Lance and extends his fist. He attempts to use his injure-kill power. Most of the heroes are able to dash away and escape from danger. However, Lance is lifted off the ground by the force and feels his neck begin to break. All goes dark for him as the life begins to squeeze out. Let's see how this plays. So, for the alter skill and the injure kill force talent, the target number is going to be a perception check for the target. Now, Lance did use a force point this round, so it's going to be doubled. Let's see what he gets. 20. Let's roll the Inquisitor's alter. Oh, we already did it, which is 15. 20, 50, or 51, I'm sorry. 2 times 20 is 40, and so Lance is incapacitated, unfortunately. So he does feel the life squeezed out of him. All goes dark for him as life leaves, and he crumples to the ground. All right. So the heroes flee. We're almost done. Minutes have passed. We'll say most of our heroes, except for Lance and Karis, who were left behind, have escaped. Now they take a moment to regroup. Let's say that one of them is wounded. Healing is simple in this system. If you have a med pack, you can heal a player by using a medical check. The target number is 10 if they're wounded, 15 if they're incapacitated, or 20 if they're mortally wounded. Let's go ahead and narrate a medical roll. So for this check, I'm actually going to bring out another NPC to the game. We're going to bring out our little medical droid here. His name is Unit HD29. And what he would do would be to go ahead and roll a skills technical, medicine, and he would roll a 33. So that's very good. If someone was mortally wounded, he would at least be able to be stabilized. So there you have it. Some basics of combat and how I run it. It's not perfect, but in game it seems to flow fairly smoothly. Again, realize we're not spending force points every round in a normal game. Let me know what questions or comment you have below. And thanks for watching. As always, subscribe to Blades and Blasters for more videos like these and tons of live play videos. Thanks.